received repeated indications that officers routinely failed to comply with seatbelt policies, sometimes with tragic results. In 2005, Don D. Johnson Sr. was arrested for urinating on a public street and transported in a van by a BPD officer. During a subsequent trial, officers admitted that neither the driver of the van nor the arresting officer secured Mr. Johnson in the back of the van. While transporting him, the driving officer testified that she heard several bangs on the back of the van and that she reached the district station in half the time it would have taken if she had driven the speed limit. When the van was opened, Mr. Johnson was found face down on the floor and in pain. Hospital records revealed that Mr. Johnson described being hurt while falling after the van took a sharp turn, and an expert witness testified that the nature of the injury was such that the van must have been driven in an aggressive manner. Mr. Johnson died shortly afterwards due to complications from paralysis. A jury found in favor of Mr. Johnson's family, awarding $7.4 million. In 2013, Christine Abbott sued BPD officers alleging that she and her boyfriend were subjected to a rough ride in addition to other constitutional violations. The suit stated that officers threw her into the back of the police van, failed to secure her, and drove erratically. Ms. Abbott claimed she was violently thrown around the interior of the van during the ride and sustained injuries. In a deposition, the transporting officer acknowledged that Ms. Abbott was not secured during the ride. The city settled the case with Ms. Abbott for $95,000. BPD continues to place detainees at risk during transport. Our investigation found that BPD continues to place detainees at significant risk during transport. Following each of the Johnson and Abbott lawsuits, BPD undertook inspections of its transport vans to determine if officers were properly securing arrestees. An audit conducted by BPD from April 12, 2012 through May 14, 2012 inspected 18 vehicles, 2 from each BPD district. The audit found that none of the 34 arrestees in those vehicles were secured with seat belts. Jesus. BPD conducted similar audits of 9 vehicles on April 2014 and September 2014, and another shortly after the death of Freddie Gray in April 2015. With each audit, BPD inspected 1 transport vehicle from each of the districts 1 time. The April 2014 audit found that 1 out of 11 arrestees was not secured by a seatbelt. The 2014 audit found that all of the 15 arrestees in the vehicle were secured. The April 2015 audit found that 13 out of 14 detainees were secured. While this represents a significant improvement from 2012, the audits were limited in scope and sample size, and as described below, are contradicted by the statements of officers about BPD's actual practices. According to the documents provided to us in our investigation, BPD has not conducted any further inspections of the transportation process, nor has it gathered any data to ensure that detainees are consistently secured in vans. And it goes on about the limited nature of the BPD audits, which is bullshit. We also attempted to obtain video BPD maintained of detainees during transport. BPD transport vans originally contained cameras to show drivers and detainees in the rear of the van. Many of these cameras ceased to function shortly after the vans were put in use, however, and have not been repaired. Because of these failures, we were unable to obtain video of detainees and conduct an evaluation of their treatment during transport. Without functioning video, data collection on injuries, or more frequent inspections, we could not confirm that detainees are still routinely being transported while unsecured. BPD transport equipment continues to place detainees at risk. Our evaluation of BPD's transport vans heightens our concern regarding transportation practices. Many vans used by BPD remain unsuitable for safe transportation because of a lack of functioning seatbelts and video observation equipment, although BPD has made a number of changes over the last few months to address this problem. Until recently, all vans featured a rear compartment split down the middle by a dividing wall, creating 2 parallel sections to enclose detainees, with 3 seats facing inward in each section. While each seat features a seatbelt, this was not always the case. For some time, many vans had no seatbelts. Moreover, though vans are now equipped with seatbelts, we observe on our ride-alongs that some are broken. The space inside each of the transport vans is limited, making it possible for detainees being transported, if not properly secured, to strike their head on the divider or walls relatively easily, and there is virtually no padding to protect the person from injury. The physical layout of the van also creates significant concerns for officer safety. In order to belt in multiple individuals, the officer has to climb into the van, exposing his weapons and equipment to those seated in the first two seats. Once inside the compartment, the officer runs the danger of being harmed by an individual in the van or even locking himself inside. Officers reported to us that such lock-ins occur with some frequency. Okay, I'm going to stop it right here because I went 5 minutes over.